All right, welcome everybody. Once again, Una Daly here from the Community College Consortium at the OpenCourseWare Consortium. And welcome to the first webinar in our spring series on using OER for workforce training and job search skills. It's my pleasure to have three very interesting projects and two presenters on these topics today. We have Jeff Davidson from the Saylor Foundation. We have Jeff Cohen and Myra Lombera from 20 Million Minds Foundation. And I'll be discussing the KQED English as a Second Language Work Voices project. Their project supervisor was unable to join us today. Before I continue, any questions? All right. For those of you who might be new to the Collaborate system, I just want to point out a couple of quick things. On the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see the audio and video controls up there at the top right. And if any of you dialed in today, you should make sure that your microphone and speaker are in the off position. Obviously, if you're on your computer listening, go ahead and keep those active. During the webinar, we will be accepting questions in the chat window. Because we have a lot of material to cover, we're not going to be taking live questions over voice during the presentation, but we will answer them as we can in the chat window. So please do enter those into the chat window as we go along. And you can send messages either to individual folks in attending the webinar today or to the entire room by typing in your chat window. All right. If there's no questions about that, I'm going to once again ask you, if you haven't done so, and many of you have, introduce yourself in the chat window. Let us know what organization or institution you're with, and if you have any special interests in OER and workforce development. We have a number of experts here today, and this is a good time to get some questions answered. And I know that this time of year, a lot of our community colleges are just getting back to school. So their second semester is starting, so this tends to be a little bit of a tough time for faculty and administrators to attend webinars. So I suspect that that may be why our turnout is a little bit lower today, but it gives those of you who did attend more opportunity to talk directly to these experts. And this will also be recorded so that you can share this with folks back on your campus who weren't able to come today. All right, I'm going to ask you to let us know where you're from, geographically speaking, so kind of a big picture question here. And if you want to grab the, there's a set of icons that are in the gray vertical bar in the middle of your screen, and there's one that has a star. And if you click on that star, you can drag it over, and actually you just click on it and then just move your mouse. You don't even drag, and you just can set down where you're, you can set down an icon for where you're located. I'm in California on the West Coast, and so well, we just got quite a few here. It looks like somebody has identified themselves as being in Northwest Africa. I wonder if that's true or if that's a technical issue. If you are from Northwest Africa, welcome. That's really exciting. All right, so we have a good distribution in the U.S. and we possibly have one person from overseas. So that's really exciting. All right, so today, after a brief introduction, I'm going to go ahead and let Jeff from the Saylor Foundation talk to you about their professional development program. We'll then have a presentation from 20 Million Minds about their OER workforce curriculum development. And then I'll give you an overview of a very interesting project that is been developed by a local public TV channel here on English as a Second Language student workforces. All right. For those of you who might not be familiar with the Community College Consortium for Open Educational Resources, we promote the adoption of OER to enhance teaching and learning. And our goal is to expand access to education, and we do this through supporting professional development. This is one of the webinars in our series that addresses that. Here are our members throughout the United States, and I have to mention that the province of British Columbia just joined us, so I need to update this map with the colleges up there in the BC area. Once again, these webinars are open to all, but these are official members who work with us on a regular basis, and we welcome any of you out there who have an interest in OER and work at the community college to consider joining us as members. All right, so before we get into the main part of our presentation, I just wanted to let you know kind of the facets that we're going to touch on today. So we're looking at both open and free resources for workforce training. Over time, we're seeing that a lot of the workforce training that is being developed at educational institutions and nonprofits is becoming openly licensed, which means it can be reused and remixed. Today, not all resources are. Some are simply free to use in the classroom, and the KQED resources that we're going to talk about later on fall into that category. And yet there are wonderful resources, but they're not remixable at this time. But the main thrust of our presentation today is going to be about the development of OER for professional development, and also developing OER curriculum for workforce courses at community colleges. So we're kind of covering a wide swath today, and I hope that this is useful and informative for you. All right, our first presenter today is Jeff Davidson from the Saylor Foundation. Jeff joined the Saylor Foundation in the summer of 2011. And as the Strategic Initiatives Manager, he leads the team pursuing new partnerships and directions and oversees many of the major projects brewing at Saylor. And today he's going to talk with you about the progress that they've made on their Clinton Global Initiative to provide workforce skills and job search training. And that's what our picture here of Jeff is when they announced this at the Clinton Global Initiative meeting last July. And Jeff, are you ready?
I am. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Una. Just for those who are not from, can you hear me okay?
Can hear you perfectly.
Wonderful. I want to make sure I took the mute button off. For those who are not familiar, the Saylor Foundation is a 501c3 based in Washington, D.C. Just as a place to start, the foundation in getting into OER hired a bunch of professors from colleges around the country to build courses. Today we've got nearly 270 college-level courses. The professors we hire build detailed course syllabi that's very learning outcome driven, not just at the course level, but at the unit level as well. And these original courses are all full semester length courses. The courses rely very much on existing OER, some great stuff out there as you all know, for much of the content. But our consultants are building more and more original resources. We have a new AV team where we're doing a lot of what we call Khan-style videos. We don't have Sal Khan on staff, but he's got such a unique voice. But we think, mixing it up between, lecture videos as well as those that really focus on the concepts the way Khan does, or is a nice mix. So we're doing more and more of that as well. Anything that Saylor builds, by the way, including our syllabi and course outlines, etc., it's all CC BY. So it's totally free to use and remix at your school and to make it better. And of course, we're always looking for input from those of you in the colleges and other trade schools or wherever to help us make these better. Speaking of colleges, we do have some partnerships in place. And I don't know if you saw it. I sent you a couple of links. If you have a chance to open your email, I have a link that could be placed about this partnership. We have partnerships in place with Cccoer College, where we just announced, loaded up a course today where you can take a free Sailor course and then take a challenge exam from Cccoer College. And Cccoer College's exams in this category are not just for their school. They've been reviewed by ACE, so they are transferable to many, many other schools. So today we already have one left for, I believe, a calculus course. We're doing many more with them. We also now have a new partnership that we're about to announce. It's enough to say publicly with Thomas Edison State College in New Jersey. Similar thing where they have exams that will match up the courses. And also their exams are also recognized by many schools. So it's a really nice opportunity for them to provide a study aid through our OER. We also, on our own, by the way, we have 3 of our courses are recommended for college credit, 3 credits each, by the National College Credit Recommendation Service. The NCCRS used to be known as National PONSI, P-O-N-S-I, but for a very good reason. I think they changed their name. They have 1,500 plus participating colleges, and they're a growing complement to ACE recognition. And I just want to give you that background. Because if you go on the site, it's very dominated by the college materials. But as part, as Una alluded to, as part of our commitment to the Clinton Global Initiative, we committed to build a dozen workforce training courses. I think we're already close to that, and we're going to pass that. Unlike the college courses, these are much shorter. The college courses typically require 130-ish hours of student commitment to make it through in order to pass those tests. But these workforce ones are much shorter, much more skill focused. But like the college courses, we do use OER, use existing OER, and we're also using our professor and experts to create a bunch of new resources as well. The program is divided up into 3 sections of courses. We do have a PRDV, Professional Development Work portal on our page, if anyone wants to check that out. But the 3 sections are 2 very broad ones. Well, all 3 are broad. Workplace skills, job search skills, and career development. Workplace skills, anything from basic computer skills and literacy, literally someone who has hardly any experience using a computer, which we would think might be rare today, but unfortunately it's not. Up to spreadsheets and time and stress management. The job search skills, just what it sounds like: how to write a resume, how to do an interview, professional etiquette, how to dress. Those are a lot of those things when I talk to workforce boards around the country, who were getting them early buy-in on some of this stuff. They tell us that, as you all probably know as well, that some of the biggest problems that employers are facing are not necessarily the hard skills, but the soft skills. And a lot of that stuff is hard to teach, but we'll make an effort, and we're going to also work with some workforce boards to try to even put more resources into this area, so that people have just an idea of how to apply those skills. A gentleman from one workforce board was telling me that the biggest complaint employers tell him about is people showing up on time. Now that's something that you wouldn't teach in your course, right? But it's something that we could remind people of when they do take some of these courses for more specific stuff. Speaking of specifics, in the career development section on our site, you can drill down and see a bunch of very specific courses related to various skills, from payroll applications. We're going to do intro to paralegal studies. We have accounting principles already available, computer-related courses, and management as well. These courses, as I mentioned, are more skill-oriented. They're like the college credit. They're very much learning outcome driven. Everything we do is learning outcome driven. We start there and build from there. See what's out there available in the OER world. If nothing's there, then we build it. The typical of these are going to be around 30 hours. So again, much shorter than a typical college course. Also in this area, one thing we're doing next is we are going, and once we get further along in these individual courses, we're going to roll out several multi-course certificate programs, including sales and customer service and public relations. Those are already beginning to be built behind the scenes. We'll have several more that will expand. I think we're doing one in payroll management, for example, payroll applications that will expand into multi-courses. The reason for that is, one, I think a lot of high schools are really stressing CTE much more, and so there's a possibility that as we talk to these schools and talk to workforce boards, some of this could be adopted and made better, remixed, whatever, and used to get some students some skills very early that, who knows, maybe can help them bolster their credential to get into an entry-level job when they come to community college. And there was also some schools out there who are accredited but maybe not part of the traditional system, loosely called for-profit, but I think that's even too loose. But some of those schools were charging a lot of money for these types of certificates, which is strange because a lot of community colleges have this stuff, and so we struggle with trying to figure out why someone would choose, something they see on late night television versus their local community college. But to the extent that the other is out there, we wanted to offer, another place to get some of this information. One thing that's important too is if you go to our site and you go into professional development, we're from accounting principles on down to human resource management. Everything we have up there, even if it's something that's fully built already, we do put these courses through a peer review process. Our college credit ones, for example, 3 professors come through after the person who's built it and check the learning outcomes, check are the exam questions matching these, are the resources delivering the information needed to match and master the outcomes. So while we have some professors on staff in a lot of these areas, and when I say staff, I mean part-time, 1099. We've got some money, but unfortunately not enough to hire a bunch of people full-time. But we do have some money to hire people part-time. We had some really great response from different places around the country. Adjuncts have been really great in particular. But we need reviewers, we need some course builders, and we're always looking for feedback. If there's anything, obviously the easy stuff to pick out is when there's a typo, but we love to hear even broader stuff such as, oh gosh, here's an area that you're completely missing that's very popular and very needed because, a bunch of schools teach this and maybe there's budget cuts looming, or maybe there's a really expensive textbook that the kids aren't buying. Is there something we can build with you, our professors matched up to professors in your schools or wherever? We'd love to do that. We did a little bit of that with the Washington State Board courses. We took some of their courses that were built in the open course library and revamped them and made them a little bit more open, a little bit more robust. And so those are there. We'd love that same kind of collaboration in going the other way, where schools take ours and make them better, or tell us how to make them better. And so if there's something there's a need out there, please let us know. We'd love to help. We have plenty of peer review and course design opportunities, and very important, we have a lot of our consulting professors will use these resources in their schools, but it's often very unofficial. But beyond the partnerships I mentioned earlier with Excelsior and Thomas Edison's and some other ones in the works, we'd love to, those are college credit bearing, we'd love to really in this area, the workforce area, learn from the community colleges and work with you is there something that we can do to make ours better, something we do to make yours better. We'd love to pilot a course or pilot a section, whatever might be useful at your school. We'd love to work with you. So I'm put my email address up here if anyone wants to contact. Happy to jump on the phone and see how we can help. I've said a lot, and a lot of that's big, broad brush, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to dig down a little deeper.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. Since you ended a little bit earlier than your allotted time, I'm happy to let people post some questions or speak up if they're on microphone. Well, I know I wanted to ask a question. So for your certificate programs, how are students earning those? I assume that there must be kind of assessment that they have to fulfill in order to get a certificate.
Yeah, so we'll copy what we do for the college credit program. So the college credit program, you have a final exam that's proctored. Our college credit courses are tuition-free and exams. There's no cost for our exams, but we partner with ProctorU, who's a $25 exam fee. But we would partner under National College Credit Recommendations guidelines. You can, a school teacher or a guidance counselor can serve as a proctor if they're willing to sign an affidavit. So we would have a similar program if somebody wanted to do the multi-course certificate, where there would be some type of proctored exam to bolster the credibility of the certificate.
All right, Jeff, you had a comment from Barbara.
Well, I see it now. Oh well, Barbara. First of all, the thanks goes to you for you and your colleague for putting that wonderful book out. That's something that's very important to us as well. Is that one thing the Saylor Foundation noticed back in 08, 09 when they started digging into this, is that there were a lot of repetition out there. And that's been something that's kind of happened. And I understand the importance of academic freedom and all those important issues. But when we see a great resource like this collaborative statistics book, we're not going to reinvent it. We're not going to put out a different one. We're going to take that one and use it. And in this particular instance, it just so happened that Sal Khan did a bunch of videos that matched up to those courses, to the problems in that particular textbook. So talk about a wonderful, OER base that was there. And so we've added a little something to it, but we didn't have to do much in that particular instance. But there's something where if you're an adjunct professor, or I think of or somebody that needs a course, or Jerry Brown is talking to Udacity, maybe he hires a bunch of graduate assistants to administer this course, and the schools can create an exam to match it. Because it's really, with this book and those videos and some things we've added, it's a pretty robust course. Some people would need some help. Saylor is self-guided, so that would be something where someone could get together and do something with this beyond the self-learning.
So, Jeff, are you saying a teacher could pilot, for instance, we're talking right now about the collaborative statistics course, that they could use the materials that you've posted up there, the con videos, in their classroom, possibly, and obviously they would supplement it with an exam and perhaps other assessments, but this would give them a real head start. Particularly, you mentioned if they're an adjunct professor that's called a week before the semester starts, which does happen occasionally, and asked to teach a new course.
Yeah, exactly. And we even helped out in Philadelphia. The local dual enrollment budget, it's a major city, got cut from the state level of funding got cut literally to zero. So we gave them one of our business law courses, and they're the teacher serving as the regular high school teacher serving as a coach. And the kids are working their way through it. And we do have our professors. We now have discussion forums and students who, our site is completely open, so you can come and start reading and not tell us you're there until you're ready to take an exam if you wanted to. But there is an option. We've now had several thousand people sign up for the e-portfolio, where they can create private study groups and do more interacting, that sort of thing. But it's interesting to see, people are using the resources for different reasons. We have, of course, many people from overseas who have access to next to nothing, are thrilled just to get something. We see a lot, for example, our iTunes University page, it's got over 1.5 million downloads, but a big chunk of that was around final exam time. We don't know for sure, but we kind of think that these were existing college students downloading extra resources to study. We've done some anecdotal evidence from that as well. But this professional development stuff is very new to us. It's not new to the professors we're working with, but it's new to us. So we, again, anything that if anyone wants to help us pilot something or tell us like, oh gosh, I wanted to pilot something on my own, but I couldn't get the budget to build X. Can you help me? Let us know what that is, and we'll try to build it with you. We have some money available, and it's we do have interest in building more and more in this professional development area. So we'd love to work with anyone who's willing.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff. I think that's a wonderful offer to people, and we'll hold the rest of the questions and comments till the end.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. All right, next I'd like to introduce the 20 Million Minds Foundation. We're going to have Jeff Quinn speaking today about developing workforce curricula. Myra Lombera is the Outreach and Development Director, and she is also online for questions afterwards. I want to just mention a little bit about Jeff. Jeff works for the 20 Million Minds Foundation to help faculty teams develop OER and open textbooks for workforce training related to the Department of Labor task grants. In addition, Jeff has been CEO of campusbooks.com since 2007 and hosts his own blog at Textbook Guru. Are you there, Jeff?
I am, thank you.
All right.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you to Jeff, and we'll kind of show a different workforce development, specifically in the grantees from the federal grant. I'll tell you a little bit about 20 Million Minds if you are not familiar with our foundation. We support the creation and sharing and affordability of textbooks. If we really want to break our foundation goals down, we want to increase access to education and decrease cost. And so as we're growing as an organization, and we're only a couple years old, we've gotten ourselves involved in quite a few things. If you followed the Reboot seminar that happened a couple weeks ago back in UCLA around MOOCs and some of the changes that are happening in California, and as well as being heavily involved with the TAC grants. In the area of OER, we really have 3 programs that we sponsor, support, and develop. Many of you are familiar with OpenStack College. It's an investment, it's a grant that we were part of to develop the high-quality OER books, and all the books are offered free at cnx.org. One of the things we learned from that process was that the books were out there and available, but it wasn't really fulfilling the promise of OER to allow people to remix, reuse, and revise the content, that they still needed a platform by which to be able to bring the textbooks that we created in and reorganize them the way they want to use them in their classroom. We then partnered with Academic Pub and Dynamic Books to release 2 platforms. One's called 20mmix.org. The other one's called meshbook.org, and I can share these email addresses or these URLs with everybody at the end. And both of these work within kind of an open book forum where the user can remix and reuse and republish these books. Academic Pub offers the ability for the book to be either available online or printed. Meshbooks allows for the book to be dynamically updated in class. So both of these offer some pretty unique features that we found within the marketplace to be necessary. When we first started, we were very much behind the free textbook idea, and we still believe textbooks should be free. But we also came to find that there's technology in distributing the book that can really make the book better. I don't know what just happened there. Okay. Not really sure what happened with my slide there, but we'll just keep going. The third is our Trusted Advisor program, which is directly related with the TAACCCT grantees, providing project management support in the development of OER. And that's specifically what we're going to talk about today, our project that we did with West Hills Community College. So West Hills Community College, got a lot of things ringing here, sorry about that, is a grantee that received around $20 million. The C6 Consortium, as it is known, represents 11 community colleges within the Valley. All of the money is for medical, manufacturing, and green energy jobs. As part of that grant, as with all grantees, they're looking to develop as much OER content as possible to lower the cost of the overall experience for the students. The economic, Barbara could probably speak to this even better than me because she's part of West Hills and the C6, but the economic area around the C6 Consortium has some of the higher unemployment rates in the country. And so workforce redevelopment and re-education is very critical to them stepping out of the economic slumps that they're in. So I wanted to kind of review the process that we did in developing some of the courses, and then I'll share with you a case study, if you will. So the first thing we did in working with West Hills was identify the potential courses. We worked with the leaders within the group to figure out which courses were being offered and which textbooks were being used within those courses. By doing that, we were able to map the current textbooks to current OER available in the marketplace. So going back to what Jeff said earlier, some of the easiest OER to implement at the classroom level is the OER that's already been vetted and used within in the marketplace. And we weren't trying to reinvent the wheel and write things from scratch as much as we were trying to use what was out there. And what we found was there are definitely some courses, statistics, physics, we'll call them entry-level remediation type courses that have a ton of OER content that's available. And as you get into some of the more higher end courses, the courses require a little bit more in-depth individual development of the OER. So by reviewing the potential OER in the marketplace, we were able to give West Hills a good assessment of which courses we felt had the best opportunity for success within the program. At that point in time, we brought the educators together because they're a critical piece of this, and we got the buy-in to developing the OER course. At that point, we then took all of the syllabi from the different courses being taught throughout the consortium, and we began to develop an outline and objectives for the course, which allowed us to roll into the content development. Once the content was developed, or while it was being developed, we moved into looking at the distribution platform, the mesh book or the 20M mix product. And then we did something a little unique, and we brought everybody together for what we termed a hack event. And the purpose of this was we had individuals working on 2 different books at the same time, and while they were doing that, they were not able to work. They were working individually but not as a group. By being able to bring them into a group environment, we were really able to work on the development of the book, talk through the learning objectives and the chapters, and really forge forward with the book development. Step number 9, and then you'll see step number 12, are reiterative processes that any textbook requires: review, revise, and edit. Our first round of review for the book was simply just making sure we had all the learning objectives, the fonts, the formats, the structure of the book from all the materials we brought together. Brought it into the platform, and now it's currently being used in class. When the class is over, we'll survey, we'll review, we'll revise. We're going to have another hack event where we're bringing all the people together that use the book, and we will make decisions from that point moving forward. So let's look at a real-life example of this. The LVN to RN nursing transition course is being used in 4 classes throughout the consortium. It's a 6-week course. Currently costs the students about $80 per book, and there were about 120 students in the initial course for this semester, just in the C6. We can also tell you that through studies that we've done and that others have done, there's about 12 other programs that have, within just round 1 of the grantees, that have an LVN to RN transition program. So while this is just talking about specifically what's happening at West Hills, our goal is to take this book and share it with all the other grantees and hopefully have it used in many other courses beyond what we're doing in the C6 consortium. So we broke the text or the course into 8 working modules, which were then split up, and some of those modules were remediation basic skills such as writing or math, and some of them were dealing with patients. We then worked directly with Creative Commons to review all materials to be used in the book, to verify CC BY requirements and make sure that we were able to reuse and repurpose the content in the ways that we wanted. And the team really worked diligently prior to the hack event to create a lot of the materials from scratch, pulling in the key components from other pieces of work that they were using in the classroom. Everybody came to the event with work already started, and we'll get into some of the keys of the event. By the end of the event, which was 2 grueling long days, we completed about 80% of the book. We shortly finished the book about a week or so after the event and began the formatting and editing process. And the book is actually being used starting in classes about 3 weeks ago. So we're about 3 weeks into our semester. For this particular book, they chose the 20M Mix platform because it was only a 6-week course. It was not critical for them to have updates of the book throughout the semester. And the final cost for the online version of the book was about $7. We did have a couple students opt for the print version, which started at $25. And the book is also free to be shared with colleagues teaching similar courses. So the idea of faculty copies is all built into the system. The savings for this semester alone at the C6 was around $7,000 just for the 120 students who took this course. So as we grow that number into more courses, we're going to see some pretty substantial savings across the platform. The other book is estimated to have around a $70,000 per year economic savings to the student. It's going to be driving a $250 book down to around $15. So there's pretty substantial savings when you're able to move students to OER publications. As the course wraps up, we will be conducting surveys with the students who are taking the class, finding out their experience, the faculty who taught the class, and then revising and expanding the book based on feedback. Again, our plan is to share this with other programs and grow its adoption. A couple takeaways which were good learning points along the way. The biggest challenge, and I think Myra would speak to this, and anyone else who's done this, getting started is the hardest part. It's so mind-boggling how to get this process going that sometimes that stops the whole process from moving at all. And the real key to moving this forward was to grab the bull by the horns, for lack of a better example, and just start. You can sit on the phone and plan and program and plan and put timelines together, but if you don't just start and get in and get started, you won't ever get this accomplished. It's very important to have a plan with deadlines and make sure you're adhering to those. One piece that I think was very critical for the faculty involved was you don't have to get this right the first time. Everybody was like, oh, we need peer review, we need this, we need that. And our response was, that's great, but the point is this is a living, breathing document. Therefore, those things will happen over time, and it's not critical to have every component and every element for the first time. If they had only gotten 4 of the modules done and used those 4 modules and then taught the other 4 modules from PowerPoint, it still would have been a success. You don't have to have 100% complete to do it. Make sure you know what you're getting into, because this process definitely takes longer than expected. Everybody kind of thinks they can get together and in 3 hours write a book, and it probably takes closer to 30 hours. So however long you think it's going to take, it will take considerably longer. But the value from the outcome is pretty rewarding when you're able to save students money and make something more accessible to them and share it with your colleagues in the field. So if there's any questions, I can take them. Otherwise, I'll try to answer them via chat.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeff. That was a very interesting and very informative about your project. I think just because we're coming up on quarter of the hour, I think we'll go ahead and continue and save the questions for the end, but really excellent information there about the project that you have just completed. All right. So save those questions for Jeff and Myra at the end. And I wanted to talk with you a little bit about some free ESL resources for educators. I wonder, show of hands, do we have any faculty or administrators, deans that work with students who have English as a second language requirements? You could, okay, we've got one out there, Janny, great. I'm glad to hear that. So KQED is a public television and radio station in the San Francisco Bay Area. And as you know, the San Francisco Bay Area is a very diverse community and has many students that come from immigrant communities. And they have developed a really wonderful set of resources, and the URL is right here. It's www.kqed.org/ESL. And I just wanted to talk with you a little bit about that this morning. The project supervisor, Maxine Einhorn, unfortunately could not join us today. So stuck with me. All right. So these set of resources, as I mentioned earlier, they're free to use and download in the classroom. They're very media rich, and they focus on educators and students both using and developing media for their learning, with a real focus on 21st century skills. There are free online resources for curriculum in the following 6 areas. And I'm going to go ahead and show you, here are the pictures of the websites. So there is an eco-literacy curriculum for English language learners, a health literacy curriculum, new media literacy such as social media, etc. There is immigrant communities curriculum, exploring the green economy with ESL students, and finally fostering financial literacy in ESL classrooms. So all of these are free to download and use within your classroom. A new project that has been developed over the last year is something you might want to bring into your classroom as well, and share this particularly with your students. It's a series of interviews with former ESL students who are now employed in different vocational areas. Primarily today these are health sector employees, but they talk about the path that brought them to the job, and how other folks can get the skills and training needed to enter these jobs. And they talk in quite a bit of detail about what they do on the job. And coming up later on this year will be interviews with students who are in other sectors such as green jobs and technology companies. And I wanted to share one of these with you. So this is always a little exciting when we do a web tour, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to type this in, and I'm going to give you about 60 seconds, maybe just over a minute for you to watch this on your computer. Oops, I'm sorry, that was the wrong one. Let me try that one more time. So here's a series of interviews with Ilya Ruana.
Technology program is really a fast program, and I told us on the first day, welcome to this amusement park, and you're going to get into this roller coaster now, which is going to take you fast bullet train. I remember one of my instructors saying that the first day, and they were joking, but it is really fast. And has a lot of determination. You have to have some determination for it because it's serious, but because the stuff that we're going to do at the end is serious. You have to do a lot of training for it. The very first semester, we actually go clinical training. That means we are in a hospital or clinic working with patients already since the first semester, and that is. So they throw us right up there to clean the world, and it works because at the end, this is what I'm going to be doing. So we spend 2 days in clinic or hospital setting, and then we first semester or the first year all along. We do 4 different rotations. Programs first, they assign us to a main hospital the first year, but we also do a rotation or to a children's hospital, which is specialized in.
All right. So interesting interview, and I hope most of you were able to listen to that. I'm going to go ahead and move on. There's a number of other interviews, and I think that those could be very inspiring to other students who are pursuing these paths. All right, and so if you are interested in any of the ESL resources that are produced by KQED, once again, they are free to download and reuse in your classroom, and you could contact Maxine Einhorn, whose information is down here, and she would be happy to hear your feedback, and if you would be interested in joining a focus group, you could provide feedback at a slightly higher level. Well, that's all I have to say about the KQED ESL program today. I want to let you know that we are going to be having a webinar on February 26th. That's the next in our series, and it's going to be on the evolving role of librarians in OER. And we're going to hear from 2 or 3 librarians. One of the topics is going to be on students creating OER. So I think that's going to be a very interesting concept for some of our faculty to think about, how we can empower students to also be part of this process. And we'll also have Houston Community College District talking about some of their OER guides and library guides and how to develop those so that your faculty have a curated area for finding open content. So at this point, we're going to open it up to questions for Jeff, Myra, and myself. And so please feel free to use the mic if you are on microphone, or type into the chat window. And thank you, Jeff, for that comment. Jeff Davidson from Saylor says that they also have ESL resources at Saylor Foundation that they're working on. So good to hear, Jeff. I know that this has been an area that has lacked open content. So.
Yeah, it could be a good complement to the resources you were talking about.
Yeah, wonderful.
We happen to have had, we met at an OER conference, we met a gentleman who specializes in ESL and taught for a number of years in China. Then it turned out a couple of our students taught overseas, a couple of our research assistants who are usually local grad students had taught overseas as well. So we were able to put together some initial resources, and like everything, it's still being, always being looked to upgrade.
Okay, wonderful. I'll also let KQED know about your resources in case they would like to point to them.
And I'll do the same on our end.
Okay, super. All right. While we're waiting for some questions, Myra, are you on microphone?
I am now.
Oh, hi, Myra.
Hi.
Glad you could make it this morning. Did you want to talk about anything about 20 Million Minds? And you guys are always up to so many different projects. Anything exciting happening this week or this month?
Well, we are continuing the conversations around MOOCs and MOOC for credit and options for students to have greater access to courses and be able to
Oops, I think we might have lost you there, Myra.
And so we'll be participating. Hello?
Yep, I could
hear you.
Okay.
So we'll be participating on that front. We will be joining in with the Little Hoover Commission next month, who will be hosting a meeting to continue these conversations and bringing together thought leaders once again to have some actionable items on the table that we will be presenting then at the legislative, continuing the legislative discussions, so that we can ensure that students are able to get access and credit for the courses that they participate in. I don't know how much you missed of what I was saying.
We did miss a little bit earlier. If you wanted to repeat some of the part about the MOOCs for credit.
So like I said, we will be continuing the discussions to make sure that students are not only getting access to these courses, but making sure that there's a pathway for them to get credit, whether it's through CLEP examinations or ACE recommended courses, which are already happening. And some of the conversations that we've had at this level include the College Board has examinations that they themselves conduct, and certain colleges and universities accept credit for these courses, but it's part of the discourse that has not been engaged thus far, and we want to make sure that these are some of the initiatives that are being explored as well, in order to ensure that we're not just creating great resources, but we're making sure that they're creating a pathway for students to continue in the higher education field.
Thank you for that, Myra, because I know that, for instance, CLEP exams are not always accepted by, or they're not accepted by all community colleges, and I think sometimes it's a confusion thing, sometimes it's a lot of extra work, and I think that conversation about how to accept credit is a really important one to provide students with other pathways.
Yeah, and it is. It's very cumbersome. It's a cumbersome process. A lot of the times you have to explore it college by college. And we want to make sure that there's some sort of articulation process that's taking place so that if it's acceptable at one community college, it really should be acceptable across the board. But there needs to be continuing conversations around this and making sure that we're involving the academic senate, the faculty, and everyone that we have everyone on board,
Right.
Especially faculty.
Yeah, and I know that faculty have had some legitimate issues with different exams that need to be addressed. So you're specifically talking about California, right, Myra?
We're specifically talking about California right now, yes.
Yeah, okay. Just I need to let folks know because we have a wide variety of people online, and they probably have similar issues in their states, but they will vary.
Right.
So any other questions from our attendees out there for Jeff, or Myra? We'll have a few more minutes. Myra, while we're waiting, did you want to talk about the San Jose State University announcement last week of credit for taking Udacity courses?
Well, we are working with Sebastian Brunn as well. I know that he will be participating. Long Beach City College will be the venue for the conference that the Little Hoover Commission in California will be hosting on February 26th, I believe.
Okay.
And so it will be some of the participants that were able to attend our conference, the Reboot conference that took place earlier this month. And I do know that there will be further discussions to see if we can, because as I don't know how much people know, but those courses, there were only 3 courses. They're offered to 300 students. Each course will be capped at 100 students each. So it's more of a pilot test case. It's limited access to students, but of course the idea is to then grow this, and if it's successful, and allow more students to be able to enroll and get credit through San Jose State. They are very affordable. They're being offered at $150, and so our idea behind this isn't anything else that we create and that we advocate for and that we help develop, that it would be within those means as well, so that to keep it at a very affordable level, so that it's at the same cost of a community, what you would be paying at a community college, or cheaper if possible.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. So, because San Jose State University obviously would charge quite a bit more for a similar course. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Thank you. Jeff Davidson or Jeff Cohen, do you have any concluding comments you'd like to make before we sign off here at the top of the hour?
Jeff David is just saying thanks to you for organizing, and thanks to Jeff and Myra for all the interesting information.
I have one more. If we have one more minute, I have one
sure.
question for Jeff Davidson. I know that Jennifer just commented on the credit by exams through Cccoer. Do you know what the cost for those exams is, and how
$95.
$95, and how much it would cost to transfer those on an official transcript?
Well, yeah. So you mean the cost for the Cccoer transcript?
Yes.
I believe it's in the. I will send that out to you. I believe it's in the $20 to $30 range. But I don't know that for sure. For sailor courses, though, yeah. I missed that comment. Thank you for pointing that out.
Okay.
Yes, thank you for that, Jennifer. Now, is that Jennifer from Sailor, or is it Jennifer from Cccoer who's speaking?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Oh, $12 for a transcript. Yeah, great. Even better. Even better.
Cccoer. Okay, wonderful. Thanks, Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
And Jeff Cohen, do you have any concluding comments you'd like to make before we sign off here?
Just thank you for having me, and I enjoyed participating. If anybody has any questions, they can reach me directly via the email on the slide.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jeff. Great presentation. All right, everyone. We're at the top of the hour, and if there aren't any other questions or comments, I think we're going to call it a day. Wonderful presentation. Thanks very much again to Jeff, and Myra for joining us today and sharing all of their expertise. We'll see you next month.